Well, the idea behind the exhibition is to celebrate the legacy that the Enwamu family has built up over the last couple of decades. First of all, it began with my grandfather, who was a traditional sculptor of repute in Onitsha, where I'm from. I went on to my father, who is recognized or celebrated as one of Africa's greatest artists, and then myself. I'm third in a generation of artists. In the past, I've held sway as the president of the Society of Nigerian Artists, which is the professional body for practicing visual artists in Nigeria. And this year, incidentally, marks 30 years of my father's passing. And we thought, in celebrating his passing, after 30 years, which is a milestone, that we should have an exhibition that shows that legacy that's been built up historically within the Awon family. So that's what this exhibition, incidentally, is about. And we thought that the best place to have it is the last place that he had his major exhibition in 1985, the dance thing, which was his last major international retrospective exhibition. And that's why we decided to have it here, which is incidentally is the home to the Federation of British Artists. So it's a very important venue, and that lends weight to the title of the exhibition, which is A Continuing Legacy. Absolutely, because I'm celebrating Africa. When you look around, you see beautiful women of Africa, strong. The gaze is pointed. It's not. They're not objectified. They're not subjective. They fill a place in history, in Western history, in the sense that, Western history is replete with the celebration of Western people. But you cannot tell your history, from looking at, if you're going to the major museums of the world. And whenever a black person is even painted, most likely not, they're depicted in servitude. But here you see them being celebrated in their gaiety, celebrated for their fashion, celebrated for their poise, their candor, their elegance in this exhibition. You see also the reinterpretation, the proper interpretation of the African mask, and the spirituality, that goes within the context, as opposed to where you see mask and archetypes, from Africa that are being put in museum boxes. But here you see more of, them, situated, on the head of a masquerade, for instance. And then you see, you have an idea, the sense in which, we employed the mask in traditional African society. You also see, some of the occurrences or events that are happening today in Africa being tackled through, some of the works here, some of my paintings here, like my series on the Bear children. You see, the effects, of the Nigerian Civil War that still, is the effects are still being felt today. You see that, my way of, challenging that status quo, a way of bringing people together in some of the works here. So you also see that reclamation that I'm doing, in claiming back some of the discredits, claiming the credit for some of the wrongs that have been done, for instance, in modern art, where, modern art essentially is founded upon the geometric forms and shapes of African art, but not enough credence is being given by the major actors like Picasso to Africa. So you see that sort of reclamation in some of these works here. So yes, it is a celebration of Africa. It's a celebration of blackness in a broader sense too. Well, what inspires my art is history, a rich history. The fact that we haven't been given our due. The fact that modern art, as you know it, is not rooted in Africa as it should be. Some of the negative stereotypes, some of my art is political. Some of the negative stereotypes thrust upon Africa. I'm challenging that, So this is what inspires my art. The need to position Africa, in better light. The need to, champion Africa in better light and my heritage. I think these are some of the things that gave me impetus in my work. Of course, my father straight away, I'd say that. I'm celebrating this as a joint exhibition. And I think he's been the most significant artistic mentor. And another mentor that I would have is my mom, because she's been with me all the way, ever supportive, never taking the limelight, but ever supportive. She was my first model, incidentally. And she would model, various positions of the anatomy so that I can get the movement and rhythm, because I used to paint a lot of dance. So those have been my major mentors. Then there's some artists that I look up to. A lot of them are deceased now, like Rembrandt, like John Singer Sargent. These are some of the artists that, you know, they are not. I've not lived in their time, but I look onto their works and I learn from what they have done in the past. Yes. And of course, the African artists, who never signed his work. I'm drawn to my traditional African roots with the beauty of the African mask. Now, in those days, the African artists didn't sign their works. I don't know who they are, but I identify with their works. Well, through things like what I'm doing, agitating, making sure that I'm able to defend my work, passing on my underlying philosophy, always having talks and seminars to encourage artists to always read because they broaden their minds. I have in the past, like I mentioned, served as president of Society of Nigerian Artists. And with that, through seminars, lectures, exhibitions for artists, and even through my gallery, Omenka Gallery, I've positioned younger artists in many ways, and I intend to continue to do that. They must always read, must continue to read, and they should not give credence to the saying that if you want to hide anything from a black man, put it in a book. I know that once you read, you keep reading, you expose yourself to different disciplines, you interact with other, not just artists and curators or those in your primary sector, but artists across, for people across different walks of life. That broadens your mind. So that's the advice that I'll give young artists. And always remember, to not just artists, to anyone that, that the advice I would give is that always think about how you want to be remembered.